You are listening to the Supermom is Getting Tired podcast. I'm your host, Tori Henderson, and this is episode 168. All links and show notes can be found by going to lifecoachingforparents.com/168. Welcome to the Supermom is Getting Tired podcast. This show is designed for moms who invest everything into parenting, but get overwhelmed, lost, and resentful. Listen and learn how to unburden yourself, feel calm, full of energy, and in control. I'm your host, Master Certified Life Coach, teacher, and recovering supermom, Tori Henderson. Hello, supermoms. How is everybody? Happy spring. I hope you're enjoying spring break somewhere. You might even be on vacation right now. Today, we're going to talk about the very last of the 9 Enneagram types, the Peacemaker. And I just want to thank you for going on this journey with me. It has been a really fun little rabbit hole to get down. It's so fun to sort of like sink your teeth into something new and see the world through a different perspective. After this episode, I'm going to take a little break to do my taxes, and I'm going to help my daughter move out of her college apartment and get packed up to spend 6 weeks in the rainforest, camping and backpacking. And it's a program called Wildland Studies. If your kids are heading off to college, check out Wildland Studies. It's a study abroad program that is 100% outside. And yeah, I'm excited, but I am an Enneagram Type 6. So I'm also imagining all the things that can go wrong and worrying about the worst case scenarios. So I have to channel my Enneagram Type 9 and say, I want to feel inner peace. I don't want to be worried. And so I am going to enjoy this podcast today where we're going to talk a little bit more about this wonderful type, the Enneagram Type 9. Peacemaker, also known as the Mediator. So if you resonate with every number on the Enneagram, you might be a 9. If you've been listening and you're like, I can't figure this out, I see myself in all of them. So if you notice the shape of the Enneagram, which of course you can't see on a podcast, but there is a shape. The 9 can be called the crown of the Enneagram because it sits at the top of the symbol and it seems to include the whole of it. So 9s can have the strength of 8s, the sense of fun and adventure of 7s, the dutifulness of 6s, the intellectualism of 5s, the creativity of 4s, the attractiveness of 3s, the generosity of 2s, and the idealism of 1s. What 9s lack is a strong sense of their own identity. So being a separate self, an individual who must assert herself against others, can be terrifying to the 9s. They would rather melt into someone else or quietly follow their idyllic daydreams. Cool, calm, and collected with a Zen-like presence, 9s have the ability to diffuse conflict with ease. They are generally liked by most people and have a wide circle of acquaintances. 9s are defined by their desire to maintain a sense of inner peace and harmony and to avoid conflict or other emotional disturbances. They are typically agreeable, calm, and easy to be around. Empathetic and observant, Type 9s can make loving and attentive parents. I mean, they're just wired for that nurturing, loving attention. They sort of have an easy time giving up their own agendas, they have an easy time not prioritizing themselves and prioritizing their kids. 9s strive to create a cozy and comfortable home with harmony and kindness on the inside. So Enneagram Type 9s are amazing parents. They're accepting, trusting, stable. They are usually creative, optimistic, and supportive, but can also be too willing to go along with others to keep just to kind of keep the peace. Like they might sort of sacrifice their own wants just to maintain harmony. They want everything to go smoothly and be without conflict, but they tend to be complacent, simplifying problems and minimizing anything upsetting. They typically have problems with inertia and stubbornness. While they typically go with the flow, They dislike being controlled and will respond with passive resistance if pushed too far. They're not going to yell in your face. They're not going to argue and be loud, but they will have this passive aggressive way of pushing back when they feel like they're being pressured or controlled. So the core fear of the Enneagram Type 9 is being separated and disconnected from others. They cope with this fear by submitting to the desires of the people around them. The core desire is inner stability and peace, and the core motivation is to avoid tension and conflict, to preserve things as they are, like they don't necessarily aren't lovers of change, and to create harmony in the environment. They agree in order to be included. Nines want to avoid the disturbing aspects of life and seek peace and comfort by numbing out. So nines can run away from the problems and negative emotions of life by seeking to find simple and painless solutions to their problems. So there's a couple different ways in which they do that. Nines can sometimes be physically present, but sort of disappear into their minds and imaginations. So you might be sitting at a dinner table with a type 9 and their body is there, but they've sort of left the room. They've gone off in somewhere into their brain and have just disappeared. Nines are the queens of coziness. They love comfort, laying in bed, reading book after book. They like to numb out. They like to avoid decisions and problems. They like to focus on easy things. Like type 7s probably invented FOMO. Type 9s probably invented one of my favorite words, procrastinating. This is where you sort of clean, tidy, maybe organize, or do like easy, mindless tasks, respond to emails as a way to avoid doing like the big, ugly tasks. So procrastinating is like, I'm working, I'm doing things, but I'm not actually moving the needle forward on the big, scary things because they just want to avoid that. They want to remain comfortable. So type 9 peacemakers are social chameleons who can adapt to the group dynamic easily and help others get along. They're soft-spoken, yet loyal and fun to be around, intuitively knowing how to include and engage everyone in conversation. Nines retain their self-esteem through being kind and helpful to others. They enjoy the comfortable side of life and love to have a personal space to recharge from the outer world. Many of these peacemakers are deep seekers of meaning and have a fond appreciation of spirituality and a sense of connectedness, not just with all the other people, but with the universe as well. Here are 3 questions to help determine if you might be a 9. Number 1, do I struggle with dormant anger and voicing my own opinion? Number 2, do I blend personality based on the people I am with? Number 3, do people find you easy to approach and non-judgmental in almost all circumstances? If so, you might be a type 9 peacemaker. Let me tell you about a friend named Charlotte. Charlotte had hired me because she noticed she was using food to soothe herself and she was worried about gaining weight. She knew I was not a weight loss coach, but she felt comfortable with me. And that is what mattered most to her. She didn't want to talk to anyone else. She didn't want to talk to an expert in the field of emotional eating. So as we worked together, Charlotte talked about how much she loved lying in bed for hours on end. All she wanted to do was seek comfort. She read books, she lay in bed, she would eat. She was going through the motions of her life. She was still cooking, driving her kids, going to work, doing laundry, but she felt numb. Her body was present, but her spirit wasn't fully alive. Type 9s are the most empathetic of all types and can take on the emotions and energy of the people around them. easily. She had married a type 8 with a very strong personality and loads of energy. Being around him naturally energized her, and his confidence and fearlessness made her feel brave and full of life. But her energy source of a husband changed when he came down with a serious illness. He became angry, needy, and anxious. She became his caretaker and nurse, trying to bring him back to health. As his treatments ended and his recovery began, Charlotte began to fall apart. That happens a lot. Soon as the patient gets the clean bill of health, the caregiver starts to melt down. Side note. Okay. So Charlotte had lost touch with her own wants and desires, and she'd just been in survival mode, just suppressing her anger that her life had been derailed in order to take care of her husband. So secretly, she certainly was not going to acknowledge this, but secretly and subconsciously, she resented that her husband not only wasn't appreciative of all she had done for him, but whose bad mood was bringing her down. Once Charlotte had an understanding of the big picture and like what was going on and why she was seeking comfort through food and trying to avoid life, she started to reconnect with her desires. Like most nines, her number one desire was to have time to herself because it's the only way that nines can connect with their essence and who they are at their core. You know, remember the Enneagram is about the ego, not like your spirit. And so this Enneagram Type 9, Charlotte, she needed to reconnect with her spirit and figure out like what she wanted and who was she now that she didn't have to take care of her husband so much, right? So she started advocating for her own needs. She asked her husband to bring her coffee in bed every morning. And let me tell you, this was a huge feat. It was so hard for her to ask that. That's what she wanted more than anything else, was for him to bring a cup of coffee. Do you know how simple and easy that is? That is a no-brainer. And yet you would have thought she was asking him to like move a mountain. But she did it. She asked him, and he was happy to give her something that made her so happy and that she really, really wanted. And then she asked him to leave her alone for the following hour and not to talk to her. And these were just little baby steps towards Charlotte, like reclaiming who she was, what she wanted, and remembering to prioritize her own needs. So over time, Charlotte learned to listen to her anger, not suppress it, and use it to help build stronger connections with herself as well as her partner. She also learned to listen to her fatigue as a way to pay attention to her own wants and needs. The more she advocated for herself, the more confidence she started to have. As her husband's health continued to improve, she felt ready to get back to her hobbies and her interests that were separate from him. Nines are generally composed. They have a calming presence, which automatically helps diffuse tensions. They are compassionate and understanding, able to see things from multiple perspectives. Healthy nines are flexible and can adjust well to changes or different environments. They actually, like, when they're healthy, they can be pretty adaptable and open to change. But when they are stressed, they sort of like to hunker down and resist change. So non-judgmental, patient, and accepting Type 9 moms are the ones you want to come to talk about your problems. Their ability to reassure others and listen attentively means they can become a confidant, sounding board, or dumping ground for emotional and hormonal teenagers. So if you are a Type 9, you might notice that your kids come to you with their emotions and their drama and their problems, and they like to vent to you because you are such a calm and soothing presence for them. But there's a cost, and we will talk about that. Because the nine's ability to put themselves in other people's shoes and feel what other people are feeling can cause them to lose themselves while raising kids It can cause them to ride the roller coaster ride of adolescence right along with them, where the mom is up or down, just like the kid is. This ability to over empathize can wipe out their energy, making 9 feel exhausted just from being around other people. Because if you are a 9 and you are hanging out with a bunch of middle schoolers who are all scared of being judged and left out and criticized and they're not good enough, then you're just going to feel like it's going to feel like you feel that way. You feel exhausted from being around other people who are in fear. So it's a beautiful thing if used well, but empathy will use you if you don't learn to use it. So learning to manage that talent is really important. Here are some struggles that Enneagram Type 9s may have while parenting. Number 1, piling up unresolved issues because of a desire to avoid conflict. Number 2, difficulty making decisions. I didn't talk about that, but 9s have the hardest of all the types. They have a really hard time making decisions because they just have a hard time connecting with what they really want. And so sometimes I get calls, as a life coach, I'll get calls from parents like, can you help us decide like what school to send our child to, or whether we should we let them quit gymnastics? And sometimes it's just helpful to have a sounding board for making those decisions. And I'm happy to be that. Okay. Number 3, struggle that moms can have while parenting who are Type 9s is this loss of identity that I mentioned, that they may struggle to assert their individuality and may merge with others' identities or preferences. Number 4, self-neglect. 9s have a difficult time advocating for their own needs. They lack assertiveness when it comes to standing up for what you need, want, desire, all that challenging stuff. Okay, number 5, struggle that 9s can have is difficulty saying no and setting boundaries because they like to avoid conflict. If saying no and putting, restrictions on the kids or having like rules and consequences creates conflict in your house, then a 9 type parent might avoid that. Number 6, escapism. Type 9s may use distractions or numbing activities to avoid facing uncomfortable emotions. Number 7, resentment. If their needs are consistently ignored, they may harbor resentment or passive-aggressive feelings, right? Because they're not good at advocating for themselves. They kind of sometimes secretly hope somebody else is going to do it for them or is going to give them what they want. And when it doesn't happen, they can build resentment. And then number 8 is this gosh darn fatigue and exhaustion caused from over empathizing and being too spongy. And just that Enneagram 9 who just really likes to seek comfort and just doesn't have as much energy as, let's say, an Enneagram Type 8. Missy came to life coaching complaining about her quote unquote laziness. She was frustrated with herself for not being able to get anything done and spending every weekend too exhausted to do anything. She felt like other moms were much more efficient and productive with their time. She was planning to have her thyroid checked out because her exhaustion felt so extreme. I cannot tell you how many moms come to life coaching and they're like, I think it's hormonal. It might be hormonal. I'm going to get my hormones checked. Hey, get your hormones checked. But most of my clients after 12 weeks end up feeling more energized and more in control of their energy. So it is, the mind and body are connected. But in Missy's case, she was a teacher. She worked with 30 plus kids all day and then came home to 3 kids of her own in the afternoons. She was a big-hearted Enneagram Type 9 who strived to create harmony wherever she went. Missy did not realize she was soaking up the energies of the people around her. She did not have something called energetic boundaries, where she was just this permeable membrane. If somebody came into her classroom in a good mood, she was suddenly in a good mood. If somebody came in angry, she was suddenly feeling the anger. So she was over empathizing, sort of subconsciously, not trying to, but with all the children in her life, which is a very tricky thing. It is an invisible thing, but it's very real to those who suffer from it. You might not be able to see it, but boy, is that fatigue tangible. So the first thing we did was try to reframe lazy as taking on other people's stuff. Nines are the spongiest of all types and can easily lose themselves in relationship with others or while raising kids. So when Missy felt exhausted, she needed to release the self-criticism and find tools to wring out other people's stuff, right? Like if she's a sponge and she's soaking it all up, how do we get her to wring it out at the end of the day? And so we worked on tools to wring it out, clear her energy. This was very strange to Missy. She came for productivity life hacks and how to stop being lazy. But she immediately could feel the results and quickly became a believer. I mean, I have clients, mamas, who I'm just like, we need to start every session with doing an energy clearing because it takes them from flatlined, like zero energy, and it brings them up to like, I don't know, 30, 40% more energy just from like a 5-minute visualization. Okay. So it's this thing where invisible problems require invisible solutions, and over empathizing is an invisible problem. And so we use visualizations, imagining, and all these like little, they're internal. It's an inside job that we do it inside the body to clear out the energy. So Missy needed to find ways to preserve her energy so it wouldn't leak out so quickly. I didn't want her to have a coaching call just so that I walked her through the little exercise, right? She was going to have to take it into her own life and use it on a regular basis. And then once she could stop the leaking of the energy, she wanted to preserve it and prevent herself from giving it all away or soaking it all up. So luckily, nines are known for their vivid imagination. They have this sort of idealistic place in their mind where they can go to their like happy place. And so we use that to imagine putting a bubble around her and looking at people through the bubble and imagining that they're staying on the other side of the bubble and that their energy isn't permeating into her little energy space. And so we worked on ways to prevent Missy from taking on the emotions of others. She learned that going straight from school to a restorative yoga class really helped her purge the energies of the day. She started walking alone in nature on the weekends to help her reconnect with her spirit. But she had to discipline her mind to not think about her kids or her students while she was walking, right? So she'd go for a walk. And if you are thinking about your kids, then your energy is going to them. So Missy had to learn that energy is a renewable resource. Just because she felt exhausted didn't mean her only option was to lay in bed and then shame herself for her lack of productivity, right? It's just that the fixes were internal, not external. Type 9s need to be careful with self-care. Getting a massage without doing the inner energy clearing means you're just going to go lay on a table and like help the massage therapist feel better and like soak up her emotions. So going out with girlfriends might be fun, but you might be even more drained afterwards because you just soaked up the energy from all your friends, from the waiter, from the Uber driver, whatever. So we really want to be careful with self-care. The way I see self-care for these sensitive, empathetic, spongy nines is it's inner work inside the body, inside the brain. Invisible problems require invisible solutions. The inner work of clearing energy, imagining invisible boundaries, and using visualizations is the fastest path to a healthy and balanced type 9. So what do type 9 moms gain from life coaching? many things. I would say nines do really well in life coaching. It's a really great thing for them. So I'm just going to name the top 3. Number 1, a safe place to reconnect with their essence, that part of themselves that gets lost while parenting their kids or hanging out with other personalities, so that the type 9 mom gets to feel like themselves again. Number 2, type 9 moms learn to make friends with anger. They've got to see anger instead of something to avoid, but something to listen to process in a healthy way, to understand why it's there, to draw their attention to some injustice, and to give them fuel to fight the fights or to right wrongs, right? So that they don't have to be numb out. Instead, they can be fully alive and present and process negative emotions in a healthy way. So number 3, things that they gain from life coaching is increased energy. Stop leaking the energy by over empathizing and learn to stay in your personal power so you can feel more accomplished and more productive and just sort of like in the real world, right? Like interacting with the day-to-day life that is harder for the 9s than some of the other types. Okay. Here are 3 tips to help type 9s grow into health and integration and balance. Number 1, every day, think about an opinion that you hold strongly and voice that opinion to someone during the day. If this sounds really scary to you, start with voicing your opinion to Siri or your kids, or write it in a journal. Then once you work your way up to telling humans that what your opinion is, ask yourself, has it become easier to say what I really think? Are some people easier to share it with others? Really just pay attention to voicing an opinion. It's okay. Number 2, little short action step you can take is to remember that any change you want to make starts with how you feel. So focus on your feelings instead of everyone else's. When you do that, you'll increase your personal power because here's the thing, your energy goes where your attention goes. So if your attention is on other people, you're going to be drained of energy. If your attention is inside your body where emotions reside, you will have more energy to spare throughout the day. So pay attention to how you feel and focus inward. Number 3, use this magical sentence to help get control of your tasks. What would I love to accomplish by the end of the day? Now, there's a couple reasons why this sentence is magical, and people are going to want to try and change the words. So it's important to use these words. What would I love? Well, it actually starts with what would I love to accomplish? Okay. So, and then you can change the time frame. What would I love to accomplish by the end of this hour? What would I love to accomplish in the next 5 minutes? If you need help focusing and getting productive, this sentence is magical because it brings your awareness onto you and what you want. It reminds you that you are in control. It forces small action steps because of the time frame. You're not like, what would I love to accomplish by the end of this decade? We want to bring it into a very short time period. What would I love to accomplish by the next 15 minutes? So it forces small action steps because we're focusing on accomplishment, not starting. It brings you out of numbing or procrastinating and into control. Plus, it gives you a dopamine hit once you accomplish the task. So this sentence is very helpful. I'm going to say it one more time. Everybody can use it, but especially the type 9s can benefit the most. What would I love to accomplish in the next 30 minutes? And then you do not put more than 3 things on that list. You can have your master list with 100 things on it, but you can't think about more than 3 things at one time. So what 3 things you get to put on the list? What do you love to accomplish? So these tips will help 9s grow into health and be more like balanced and increase your energy, because 9 is a beautiful, wonderful type for all the rest of us to be around, but it could be pretty hard to be a 9. So if you have a 9 in your life, you're very lucky because they are beautiful, magical people. But if you are a 9, you want to get control of the energy leakage and the melding with others so that you can connect with your spirit, the essence of who you are, so that you can have the life that you are meant to live and really feel good and proud of yourself and look back on this time of your life with no regrets. Thank you so much, Supermoms, for listening. I want to talk about raising kids who might be these different personality types, but I don't know if I'm going to go through all of them like this. So if you have a particular child who you think is a challenge, please let me know, because some of these types are pretty easy to raise, but some of them may be quite challenging. So let me know what the challenges that you are of living with a kid who has a personality type that may be different than your own. And I will do a future episode on talking about that. All right, Supermoms, I will love you and leave you. Good luck with all your taxes. I will see you after April 15th. Take care.
Want a free life coaching session? Go to lifecoachingforparents.com and schedule yours today. And thank you so much for listening. I would love it if you would subscribe and share these podcasts with your friends. If you have a question you'd like me to answer on the air, go to lifecoachingforparents.com/record-my-question, and you can send me a voicemail recording or write me an email, and I'll answer it on the air. Thanks again. Have a great day.